Blessed Day Reflection by Abia listeners. My name is Abia Grant, and we are here to reflect on our life journey. We will be discussing topics related to self-awareness, self-improvement, and mental health. Also, the purpose of this safe space is for us to be free to discuss the ups and downs, celebrate the wins, and talk about ways to improve the lows. So welcome to this podcast, and I hope you gain something from this time we share together.
Hey guys, how you doing? It is your girl Abia Grant. Welcome back to Reflection by Abia. I hope everyone is doing well and having a blessed day. I have a awesome episode for you guys today. I actually have my first guest. Congratulations to me. I have my first guest on this podcast episode. This is episode number 29, and I'm just so excited to now be able to have guests on and bring a new or different perspective, possibly, in being able to learn from other people's life experiences. So, if you have listened to last week's podcast episode, which you should have listened to that episode, so if you haven't, go back to that episode first and then come to this episode. But if you listen to last week's episode, I had spoke about in regards into if I can go back and change something from my past, like would I? And pretty much I came to the determination that I would not want to go back and change anything from my past because I feel like it has made me who I am. But I know that sometimes, other people, depending on their particular life experiences, they may think a little bit different than me. So I figure, it's a good idea to possibly bring somebody on that can maybe enlighten the question or their scenario or bring their ideas to, the discussion and everything like that. Because like I said, again, we are people who think differently. And depending on our particular experiences and everything, there are people who do want to change things from their past. So, with that being said, I want to introduce my mother. If you have listened to the podcast episode before, I have talked about my mom often. I have talked about, just our life experiences and things like that. Now, one of the things I haven't told you guys about is that me and my mom are actually kind of not far apart in age, which is, I know, kind of crazy. I am 41, and I believe my mom, she's about 20 years older than me. So a lot of people always think my mom is my sister instead of my actual mom, especially when I was young. And I just wanted to basically bring her on because I often, in the podcast episodes, talk a lot about my childhood. I dabble a little bit in things that has happened to her, things that I have saw, and I figure it'd be a good opportunity just to bring her on so that she can give her perspective on this topic. So, Ma, are you there?
Yes, hi. Hey, Abby. Abia. Some of you guys call her Abby, but I call her Abia. That's the name I gave her. My name is Lisa. I'd like to thank you, Abia, for allowing me to take a part of your podcast and giving my viewpoint on would I change the past. I think it's very important that when you have people of older age, they can give a different view. Because they've been through it. So I want to thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Just being open and wanting to have this discussion, everything like that. Because I know sometimes when we go back and we think about our past, sometimes we don't want to because we've dealt with those challenges and maybe we don't want to relive those challenges. I know for me, a lot of times I think about, well, not a lot of times, but I could say a handful of times I do think about my past and it hurts. The past does hurt, but there's also parts of, I could say, my journey that I actually look forward to looking back because it brings me joy to be able to know that I've had that life experience and everything. So go ahead and just introduce yourself, like a little bit about yourself and everything like that, so people could get to know who you are and everything.
My name is Lisa. I'm the mother to Abia, as you know, as Abia Grant. I am 60 years old. I had my daughter at 19 out of wedlock. I currently live in Georgia and just trying to live my best life, which is, living according to what God has instructed me to do. Once again, I'm very glad to have this opportunity to flip the script a little bit and to give some knowledge on different aspects of my life and certain regrets that I do have. But like my mother used to tell me, in every mishap, there's a blessing. And sometimes you have to go through the regrets so you can learn and you can teach others, because people like to, if you don't have an example, people don't like listening. But when you're able to present example, which is fact, people are more likely to take heed to what you're saying. So I'm glad I did go through the certain things, even though it was harmful, but I appreciate it now because I'm able to take that knowledge and help other people do not fall into those pitfalls that I, fell into throughout my, from the age of 19 until now.
hmm And that's one of the things, guys, is that, like I've had mentioned before, as my mom, she had me very young. And I think that her having me young as well, that was difficult. It was difficult having me, and as she explained, out of wedlock, and I spoke about on the podcast episode how my father, he chose not to be there, and how I was raised in a family of all women. It was my mom and my grandmother and my aunt. We had males in the home, but it was a woman dominated environment for me. So that also played a large factor, as well too. But before I go ahead and we further get into this podcast episode, I do want to do some housekeeping rules. We are now going to be having housekeeping rules on the podcast and everything. As I told you guys before, the podcast is always evolving and changes are going to be implemented as needed. So if you're listening to this podcast episode on Spotify, be sure to hit the follow and notification button so Spotify lets you know when I release a new episode. As well, leave me a comment on what you enjoy about the podcast and give me a 5-star rating, guys. This is how that you can support my podcast. This is not just something that I'm doing just to do. I do this because I want to help my community. Specifically the Black community, because every day I see us going through so many struggles and us not wanting to talk about our experiences. And I was one of those people through therapy, and I've mentioned that in prior episodes. This is the reason why I do this podcast. I do this podcast for my family. I think that we as a family have a lot that we have not discussed, and we have our own burdens. And this just really opens up the opportunity for us to talk, for me to bring guests on so that they could talk, as well too. So now we have a disclaimer as well. I am not a licensed psychiatrist or therapist. My suggestions and my guests are based on our general knowledge and life experiences. If you're considering making significant changes or dealing with personal issues, seek and talk to a licensed mental health professional. So guys, it's so important. If you are, going through experiences, or whether a lot of times they're negative experiences, seek counseling. I speak about that so much myself. I've gone through counseling, and Ma, you would did counseling as well too before, right?
Yes, I did. Yes, absolutely.
And has it helped you?
Absolutely.
Alrighty, so guys, we're going to go ahead and get into the podcast topic. So, like I said last week, the topic was, if you could go back to your past, would you change anything from your past? And the reason why I wanted to ask this question to myself or ask this question to you guys, is that depending on the situations that have impacted your life, sometimes people will want to change the past. I spoke about childhood trauma. Actually, I didn't speak about this topic, but this was something that my mom had mentioned to me. Inherited trauma, due to our ancestors dealing with, their own situations, their own troubles and everything, and how that has affected us. That is basically almost a part of us. It's in our blood. It's in our makeup of who we are. So I think that most people, I'm not, I can't speak for most people. I think that some people will want to change the past. But as I said, I wanted to bring somebody on because maybe I not thinking it in a way of maybe I haven't dealt with enough problems, and maybe somebody else has a different perspective than how I think. So I just really wanted to open the floor to that. So, Ma, I pose this question, to you. Do you think that with everything that has happened in your life, would you want to go back? If there was one thing, let's just start off there. If there was one thing that you wish you could change from your past, would you want to change it?
No, not one thing. And why I can say that, because I'm in a different space in my life where I understand. And sometimes your life puts you in a situation, sometimes caused by yourself, and sometimes it's just because there's other people that's going to walk the shoes that you walk, and they need someone to guide them through it. Mm-hmm. God doesn't put nothing more into. God doesn't put anything that you cannot bear. Mm-hmm. I believe strongly. No, I know strongly the different trials and tribulations that I've gone through, because He know I can deal with it. Mm-hmm. And that's where the counseling come in, to piggyback on what you're asking about. The counseling helped me absolutely. I remember what I had a memory, haven't thought about a very long time. I don't think I've discussed this with you, Bia. When me and my family, me and my siblings used to live up in New York. This is way before I had a Bia. Wait, like 20 years ago. And we have moved from Brazier Falls back into the city because my grandfather had passed. So my mother had relocated us back into New York. And we were staying at our grandmother's house, my grandmother's house, her mother. Mm-hmm. And I remember she had a back window. I don't know if Abia remember her bedroom when she had a back window. And I used to sit at this window and I used to cry. I used to cry because I felt so alone.
Mm-hmm.
And
even with your siblings being there?
Yeah, I felt alone. I felt something was missing. And like I said, we have genetic traits that affects us genetically, and we just don't know what it is that causes us to be who we are. And I'm going to be, am I able to be very frank with you, Abby?
Yeah.
I know one day I'm very big on prayer right now. Very big on prayer. And I had talked to God and I said, God, why I am the way that I am? Because I knew something was broken. I just couldn't figure out what it was. But I knew something was wrong because of the different stuff I would do and the emotional turmoil I would do, and doing things and not thinking clearly. I said, has to be a reason why it was that. And this is where the genetic blueprint or fingerprint that we have, where it can be passed on from generation to generation. And I prayed on it and I asked God, and I was told, a thought came in my mind, and I asked my cousin. And I went to my cousin and I asked my cousin, did Daddy have mental illness? And she said yes, but it was it was not diagnosed. Then I started understanding why I was the way I was. I recently was reunited with a sibling that I did not know that I had. I thought I was the oldest, realized that my dad had children outside my mom's. And she has mental illness. Now, not to the point where, we got to be put in a psychiatric ward, but it does affect our daily interactions. And once I knew that I had that, then I started finding out what can I do? I cannot control it, but I can minimize it. And that's when I start praying. That's when I start going to counsel. That's when I start getting further into my into the Word of God, because the Word of God is my medicine. And once I was able to look at the damage, I've done a lot of damages to myself, but I'm not going to. To the point where I was hating my own soul. But now I'm not in that place because I understand. And now I know what my responsibility is. I'm in a better place than I ever been. But I understand with the Word of God, and also taking those experiences, I can take it and help someone else that they don't have to go through the things that they go through. It can be difficult, but it can be handled. And that's where I'm at right now. But I had to think back, and there's still certain things I just don't understand. I probably will never understand, but it's okay. I know where I have a starting point, and I can start from that point on. So, yes.
Yeah, because, the question I was just thinking about is, one of the things you kept saying is understand. And I wanted to, understand that you said that, God is a part of your story and understanding. But outside of that, outside of God, what is it that you are understanding? Because I feel like that's when I go to therapy, and I laugh, I laugh at that. But when I go to therapy, it's like I'm trying to understand, why am I the way that I am? And I guess you could say I'm kind of looking for an answer so that I could fix the problem. But sometimes, and you had mentioned this part, is that sometimes you can't understand because maybe it's bigger than what you are able to process, or maybe it's not meant for you to understand, so it's when I walked away from therapy, I felt like I got what I needed, but there's still some parts in which I want to understand more about myself. So when you say understand, like I said, outside of God, what are you actually trying to understand?
Now that is a kind of I can't say it's a difficult question. I mean, a difficult answer. It's probably not going to be the answer that you're looking for, but this is the answer that I can give based on where I am now. At this time, there's nothing outside God. If it wasn't for me to cry unto him and ask him why I am the way that I am, I would have never got the answer. So to answer that question, what if was outside God? If it was outside God, we will not be having this conversation. We will not, because I will be mentally still dealing with what I'm dealing with. So yes, I guess I can't answer that question. Outside of God, I still would have been mad.
You still would have been struggling.
I still would have been struggling. But now, since I've humbled my spirit and went, because they say God controls all things. He knows all things. And when I humbled my spirit and went to him and asked him, yo, I'm broken. Show me why. And I knew why. So he gave me the means to start repairing. You know what I'm saying? So like you questioned, what is outside of God? I would not been working on the road of healing. So I would not be having this conversation with you. I just wouldn't. Because I still would have been hating my soul. I would still be struggling. I still would be making decisions emotionally. I still would be doing a lot of things without just, understand, okay, I got this about me. This doesn't make me a bad person, but it just makes me a person that I have to work harder. And it wasn't for the word of God allow me to see this. I would not be working harder. I just won't be. So I hope that answers your question.
No, I mean, it does answer my question, because I feel like for me, I mean, as you all know, I'm not, when I say the religious type, me and my mom have had discussions about this before, and we've butt heads, when it comes to religion and so forth. For me, I feel like we may butt heads right now in this conversation, but I feel like I have faith. I feel like I believe in God, and I do lean on him, and I do let it go and put it in his hands, because I feel like he's the creator. He is going to do what is necessary to be done. And at the end of the day, I'm just a person in the situation, because he controls everything. But when you get into the whole part of religion, this is where we differ, because I don't practice any particular faith. I'm not, in any particular religion. So for me, I feel like how I personally got to an acceptance of whom I am is just letting it go, and praying. And what I personally like to do is put certain type of sayings up, or certain type of reminders up. Like as I'm listening, or as I am listening to my mom, and as I'm sitting here and having this conversation with you, I have my bullets up on my wall, and it's here all the time. And two of the things that I have down here is being spiritual, praying at least once a day, and having faith that although you're dealing with the circumstances that you're dealing with now, that you will see it won't be like that forever. And I think when going back to, the discussion for today's podcast, is when I think about my past, there's parts of my past that I hate. There's parts, I feel like also it's part of my past that I hate myself for what I put myself through. As parts of my past in which I wish I listened to my elders, to my mom, who had already went through said experiences and me not listening, or me trying to think, as I've, discussed on prior episodes, thinking that I know it all. So do you feel that, I pose this question to you. Do you feel that, I know you said that, I guess you could say you're emotional. I will put it there. Do you think, were there people in your life that saw what you were going through and was trying to help you through?
No, not per se, because I don't think they understood what I was going through. They didn't have all the information that I had. I mean, I think they knew that something was different about me, because I remember my mother's friend had said that my mother was worried about me. And I said, yeah, I mean, I can understand that, because I was going through a lot. And she did not have, she didn't have the resources that we have now to help their children. Because my mother was, and it's funny because, once again, I think I was talking to you about this prior. When we get into relationship, we need to prove our mate. We need to, before we lay down with a person, male or female, we need to prove them, because once you lay with that person, you have children, those genetic traits pass on to your children. Yeah. And I believe strongly, if my mother had proved my father, I would not have what I have, but it is what it is. Because I also was born out of wedlock. So if my mother knew that my dad was touched, yes, I'm saying, but it is what it is. I mean, but I can deal with that now. But what happens by her experiences and what she's done, now I'm able to teach the young adults of marriageable age, this is the process that you need to go through, because this is what can happen, because I am a product of that. But yeah, you have made a comment earlier about hating yourself. At one point I hated myself, and I think I spoke to you last week about it, that I'm, at all praises that I'm at peace. I had a recent situation where I had to quit my job, and because of the I was dealing with a lot of physical difficulties, and with you, just talking about, mommy, you need to have faith, you need to have this, you need to have that. And you had remind me, listen, when you went through your trials and tribulations other times, wasn't God there for you? And I'm like, yeah. So that's where that faith comes in. So it's not about having a religion. It's not this. The Bible's not about a religion. It's about it's about having faith. It's about, if you trust me, keep my laws and commandments. It tells you in 2 Corinthians 5:17 that when you believe in Christ and you do his will, you become a new man. So by me giving all those past things to him, because now I'm no longer that person. I am no longer that Lisa. You know what I'm saying? Because the whole idea is that I submitted myself. I'm dealing with the different trials and tribulations. I'm dealing with my past. I can't. That Lisa I hate.
Yeah.
But I'm no longer that Lisa, because what I've done, I've submitted myself. I've gone to the Most High in Christ. I've asked for repentance, and now I'm a new creature. So there's no reason for me to keep digging up that old Lisa where I hate it. Now, sometimes I do have to tap into her, because I need to teach others, but she'll never be a part of me again, because it's not, it's not profitable, because all it's going to do is have me hate myself again, and I cannot. It's no profit in that.
Because you're not there anymore, and I think
I'm not there.
You're not there, and that's for me. That's, I can't, I guess in a way for me personally, I'm just thinking, I'm still upset with my past. I don't hate myself today, in this moment, but I'm still upset about some of the things that happened in my past because they still trickle in here and there now.
See, but then that's
And
something that you have to deal with, Abia. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? Those, because those particular things you have not yet dealt with. That's why they still have an effect on you. So
yeah,
those things that is trickling to, yes, I'm saying, you can't let it, because that ain't nothing but the devil trying to undo everything you have done. You
yeah.
have to take it on full blast. You have to understand, yes, you know, you were born out of wedlock. You know, there's different reasons. That's why marriage is so important, because when you have children that's born in a marriage where God gives his full stamp, you know, those children have different spiritual covering over them than the children that's born out of it, because that's not what God had put in plan. Children are made through marriages, not made through hookups or any other thing that's not biblical. And that's just Bible. That's not religion. People, I think sometimes people get religion mixed up with Bible.
That's two different things.
There's two different things. You know, I'm not speaking now. Of course, there are certain people that God talks about, but we're not even going to go there. I'm speaking Bible. I'm speaking what God said. That is not a religion. So I just want to, not to negate from what we're talking, but I just wanted to retract back to what you're saying. That people different religions. I'm not coming according to a religion because I have not yet mentioned what my religion is. But what I'm coming to you is Bible and what God said, and that's all that matters at this time.
Yeah.
At this time of this conversation. But yeah, Abby, you need to let that go. You need to find out what is you know, when I find things that's triggering me, I have to stop. Okay. Because I know I'm emotional and I don't like that about myself because I am emotional. So I'm going to deal with that because I want it more than life itself. So I figure out what is triggering and deep. And once you deep into it, and then you can identify what's triggering it, and then you can deal with that and close that door. You know what I'm saying? And that part, like I said, there's going to be a lot of aspects of our lives that you're going to hate. But it's not going to control me. I have to take what is meant for evil and turn it into good. I have to. Because there's other sisters and brothers, young adults, even older adults are going to go through what I've been through. And I'm able to, because when I see that, I am living through them. You know what I'm saying? You are my only child. I regret not having more children. But then knowing that I can be an aspect or asset to someone else where they have a husband and they going through things, and I can comfort them with my experiences along with the word of God and what Bible say, my marriages or my children are through them. Yes, I'm saying. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's
no, that makes sense. Now, one of the things that's popping into my head right now is, have you, and this, I asked this because, again, this is a conversation, and again, I'm still learning about, myself. Do you think ignoring is helpful?
Oh, no. No. That's like, no, ignoring is not helpful. It's like you have a cut. Okay. And the cut is where it's not one of those cuts where you could just put a Band-Aid on it. You got to go to the hospital and you got to get it sutured. If you ignore that cut, what can happen? You can lose your limb because you're ignoring it. Ignoring it, it's not going to solve it. Sometimes you got to grab the bull by his cojones, excuse my French, and deal with it. And once you deal with it, you're going to realize, yo, bro, it wasn't that difficult. It's because the anticipation of what we put in our mind that it may be based on no facts, just based on fear. So no, grab it by grab it, deal with it directly, and it will subside, and there will be a result that is pleasing to you. But ignoring it, all you're doing is having that sore fester, and eventually you're gonna have to get one of them limbs cut off. You even when if you want to look at your mental mind gonna get jacked up. You got to deal with it head on, or you gonna be sitting up there, bugged out because you're not dealing with the initial issue, and by ignoring it, all you're doing that's not profitable. It's not profitable.
Because I speak often on the podcast episode about that. Like, when I was going through a lot of my situations, I would ignore it, and then what happened is that it will build up, and to a point where I exploded. And I talk about
you don't know the pain because you were trying to ignore the pain. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, okay, I'm using an analogy, not to cut you off. When I was pregnant with you, and I was in labor with you for 3 days, 72 hours, that pain was relentless. And I had a doctor, he says, no, this black doctor, I remember his face, but he had this big old afro. Big old afro. He's a black guy, but I remember his face. And he said, you're going to have this baby naturally. This doctor would not give me no epidural. And I walked and I walked and I walked and I walked. And that pain was relentless. But once you crowned me, the pain stopped. And I had something beautiful.
I never knew you didn't have an epidural with me.
Oh, no, girl. Oh, no. I pushed you out. No epidural, straight back in the day.
Wow.
But through all the pain, I gave something beautiful. That's like it's like using the epidural is like ignoring the pain. Sometimes you got to deal with the pain so you can enjoy the outcome of it at the end. Yes, I'm saying, but you gotta go through the pain. You gotta go through the pain, bro. You got to. But knowing that the end is going to be positive, especially if you deal with it head on. Yes, I'm saying, by me dealing with different trials and tribulations, knowing that my dad, he had underlying mental issues, knowing that I was born out of wedlock, knowing that I had a child out of wedlock, knowing I have all these things stacked against me, knowing that when I read the scriptures and I read the Bible and realize that my life is not lined up biblically the way it's supposed to be, and then the things I've done, in my personal growth, yes, I'm saying, I had to deal with the pain. I have to ask for forgiveness, and then I have to use what I use to make sure no one else falls into the pitfalls. That is my responsibility, because if I do not use that, what God has given me, because what He's given me is a second chance, a second opportunity. And if I do not help other people not fall in those pitfalls, I'm going to be responsible for their sins as well as mine, because I know better now, because He's given me the opportunity to take something that was initially done in an unforeseen sight and make it good.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that right there is the core reason why, when I was mentioning earlier why I do this episode, why I do this podcast, is because in addition, to be in therapy for me, being able to talk about myself and everything like that, people can listen to my story and be able to take in the knowledge, whatever part of that works for them. Because if I'm not able to share my story, how am I teaching that next person?
Let's go ahead and take a quick break. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning into Reflection by Abia. Feel free to check out the podcast Instagram page and my personal page, simply.abia, also on Instagram. The links will be available in the show notes, so let's get back to the podcast.
Because I do feel that even though a person can be an elder, they still can learn from the younger generation, and vice versa. Now, one of the things we didn't touch on because we spoke about my grandfather, your father. Now, one of the things we didn't touch on is your mother, my grandmother. And when just to give you a little bit idea who my grandmother was. Unfortunately, my grandmother passed. It's been some time now, and she was definitely an important figure in my life. She was my second mother. When I keep it blatant out there. My mom has talked about her own challenges and everything like that. When my mom was going through her challenges, I relied on my grandmother. She was the one who was there. And one of the things I guess I pose to you is we know that our grandfather, well, my grandfather, your father, had dealt with mental illness and everything. Do you think my grandmother, your mother, suffered from any type of illness?
I cannot say yay or nay. I'm going to say no. I mean, we all suffer with mental illness in some kind of degree. Some mental illness is more prominent than others. As well as my mother was born out of wedlock, so you already see where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say yes, but on a very minute degree, because we all suffer with mental illness because of different traumas that is genetically passed on through genes, but not as prominent as where I can't, not as an extent where I can say that my dad did, because I have viable reference that he did, and then different things that he would do in his childhood that would explain certain things, but I could say yes, but on a small degree. Like I said, all of us deal with mental illness. Some just might not be as prominent as others. And we might not even identify it as mental illness. But I mean, if you want to use the terms that they use today, yeah. I think that my mom's might have been, I mean, I don't know. I really don't. I can't really identify her thought pattern. Especially when it came to my father. I mean, I don't know. It was one of those things. She was dating and restrictions in the family. I don't know. Only thing I do know is that when she became pregnant with me, she had told my father that, you don't have to marry me. Just make sure take care of your child, and your child has your last name. Yeah. So, basically, I was not created out of love. I was created out of lust. But that can be a whole different avenue because, like I said, it could have been something she was exposed in her family, because her mother didn't get married until my aunt was in her teens. So they already had 5 children out of wedlock. So, so we don't, that's something that, she will have to dig into where she can because she's dead. But I couldn't, all of it will be speculation. I can only speak what she told me. So, I mean, and I know how I got here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I think all of us are dealing with mental illness. It's just on different levels.
Yeah. The reason why I kind of pose that question a little bit is because once we all left the house, my uncle was there, but we were a family where we all lived in the same building. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of that. And we will always have, classes at my grandmother's house. We would do dinner at my grandmother's house. Everybody's at my grandmother's house. And then as we started to get older, me getting older, me moving away, then coming back, then moving away, then coming back. We'll get there one day. Maybe we'll have that discussion on what happened in that point of my life. Because I came back to my grandmother's home 2 times, and I think yours once.
Yes.
I've been through a lot. But again, as I mentioned, we were when I was younger, we were always there. I remember one part of a memory that always comes to me is when we got out of our school. I'll call it what it is. It's an Israelite school in Manhattan. And we used to go to this donut place. And they made the best glazed donuts.
Yeah, up on 125th Street. Between 7th Avenue and 5th Avenue, right in the middle.
Yeah, right in the middle. Old school donuts, guys.
Yeah.
These are not donuts that
be hot.
It be hot. It's not no Dunkin' Donuts. It's not no Krispy Kreme. This was a mom and pop shop.
Oh yeah.
So what we
donuts
would do,
be hot. They still be in a box, hot.
Yeah. So delicious. So what happened is that with the memory that is coming to me is we would get a dozen donuts on Saturday. And it would be myself, you, my aunt, my uncle, my granduncle, sometimes my uncle, my grandmother. And we will go to my grandmother's house. And we would just sit there and talk. And I remember either sitting on the floor or something like that. And the memory of me having a glass of cold milk with my donut and just watching y'all talk. And like I said, we were unified. But then as we started to get older, and my grandma eventually, she moved at that time as well too, not too far where we originally grew up. But we were over at the house. We'll have, certain classes or holidays and things like that. But it got to a point where nobody really was there. And she was on her own most times. I mean, my uncle was there, but, he's older, he has a family and all the rest of that stuff, or what have you. But a lot of times she was on by herself. And one of the things that I think about is she never complained, but I guess you could say is I wanted to know what was her mental space at that time, because we were all so close, and then we started to live our own lives, and it was kind of in a way that we left her to her own, devices. I mean, she never complained about it, and the reason why I bring that up is because, again, going back into the topic of if I wish I could change something from the past, I don't want to change anything from the past, but that's something that I kind of regret a little bit. Not being there more, but at the same time, I think that I don't know if she was okay with it. I mean, I never really asked. I mean, I would go visit her and we would go visit and things like that. And when we did have, holidays or what have you, it was such a great time for us to all be together, and you could just feel the love, and our communication. My family is very loud. We are a loud bunch when we all get together. That's one of the things my husband says to me all the time, he said, God, you loud. I said, well, wait till you hear all my family together. It's even more insane. But I just really wanted to, she made choices. She made choices not to remarry, well, not to marry. One of the things she used to often say a lot is that she don't need no man. Well, she wouldn't say those words per se, but she didn't date. She didn't. It was like she was. I don't know. Like it felt like she was just okay being by herself. And a little bit of part of me kind of regrets that because I feel like maybe I should have been there more, and spending more time with her, because she had a lot to teach me. But at the same time, it's like I feel like I was also in a place that I didn't see that. And now that I'm in my 40s, I kind of regret and wish I could go back. But then I don't want to go back because I also at the same time feel like she gave me enough,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's the reason why I posed that question. I posed a question about her mental space. Like, I don't think mental space necessarily deals with just, okay, you have this, anxiety, depression, or whatever the case may be. Mental is different things. It deals with relationships as well too. So it's like, I guess I posed the question of, we've had this discussion many times. Why did she choose not to? Why did she choose not to
remarry?
Remarry.
Right.
Why did she choose not to find joy? Like, and I know, I think I'm probably going to answer your question a little bit. You're probably going to say because she was an Israelite and she put her time into that, and that gave her what she needed. But I guess the question that I pose is, was that enough?
There wasn't no variations of her characteristic because she had the scriptures. The Bible was enough for her. That's why she was at peace. She always would say to me, I love myself. I love myself. Mm-hmm. I never could understand, what do you mean you love yourself? Because she was at peace. And the reason why she was at peace, because she had the Bible. She didn't need the confusion from men at this time, because there's no, with the experience with our dad, it kind of put a damper on the availability of what men are out there. And she got to the point where we grew up and she just didn't have the desire to even be with someone, because she's got to the point where, I have no need for that at that time. Maybe if she was a younger woman, probably. But when you get to a certain age, that is, that's not a priority. I'm 60 years old. That's no longer my priority. My priorities right now is to make sure that I am being, showing good in God's sight. That's where my priorities right now, because I'm worried about my soul. Yes, I'm saying. So, like I said, even though we were there all those years and then the chicken left the nest, she did not change because she was happy. She was okay. Even when she had caught the cancer, she was okay. Nothing changed. Later on, when the illness progressed, it changed because, when illness come on, you take on a different spirit. But when she dealt with the cancer all those years, she remained the same. And the reason why she remained the same is because she had the Bible and she believed in God and she believed in everything that he said. And that gave her peace.
Yeah.
Because if it didn't, she would have changed. And she did not. She remained the same. She became the better woman. You know what I'm saying? She became. So, yeah, I can answer that. I can answer that.
No. I remember. I remember that. I remember that when we found out that she had cancer, because unfortunately, she got diagnosed late. Because my grandma was the kind of person. This is the part where, this is the kind of, when I mentioned to you guys, I hate going to the doctor. I think I took on that attribute a little bit from my grandmother. I'm gonna be honest with you, but my husband, he's on top of me and he's making sure that I go to the doctor and I get everything checked out and so forth. So I do say that, just to pause a little bit, guys, if you are not going to the doctor, please get your physicals, if you're a woman, get your mammograms, your sonograms. Make sure that you are on top of your health, because at the end of the day is if you can be able to
dodge the bullet.
I guess you could say thank you. If you could be able to dodge the bullet and be able to cure whatever may be going on with you, if it is curable and if it is not going to cause pain to you, I just want to say that, then do it. Make sure that you are getting yourself checked out. Now, I guess a little way I am, kind of like her in regards to not wanting to go to the doctor, but I'm doing better at that. But one of the things I remember is when she did, we found out that she had cancer, and I was at her house one day. She was like, well, not to be TMI, but she wanted to know if I wanted to see the growth. And I'm looking at her like, no.
She was making fun of it.
Yeah.
She was making fun of it. She was making fun of it. She was making... My mother... not to go sideswipe, because you bring up a lot of memories. My mother, when my mother was, as they say, a ham. She was crazy. Not to so sideswipe. My mother dealt with male pattern baldness. And I remember she would just pull her wig off, pull out her teeth, and be joking. I'm telling you, nothing. Even though she had all these different with the male pattern baldness. Even though she had no teeth, she would make jokes about it. She did not change. She didn't let what we thought was doom and gloom overcast us.
Yeah.
And put us in a negative spot. She
smiled through it.
She was laugh through a smile and be like, yo, you crazy. I think she had did that with you one time. Pulled out her teeth or a wig or something.
She used to do a whole lot of things to me because she know that I would run out the room. Yeah. She knew that I would get scared. I'm a scaredy cat. So she would play jokes on me. She would play jokes on me all the time. And I'd be like...
Like I said, she never changed. Even at the end, she never changed. The reason why? Because she had not religion. She had Bible.
Yeah.
She had the word of God. There's a scriptures. Forgive me because I'm trying to remember the chapter and verse. The scripture said to cast your cares upon me. She cast whatever she was on, whatever she was going through, she cast it upon him. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm at right now.
Hey guys, how you doing? Thank you for listening to part 1 of the discussion with my mom in regards to if she could change something from the past, would she, because wanting, a different outcome. This episode was very impactful. It was just really nice to hear the space that, she is in. Her journey has not been easy. I thought, it was very important for her to be able to share her experiences with me and with you guys, because it's just a reminder that although you go through struggles, although that your experiences may have not been the best, that you can heal. And healing, takes work. And my mom, she has worked to get where she's at. And it's not easy. And it's an everyday process. So I do hope that you guys come back for part 2. Part 2 will be out next week. We are going to pick up right off where we left in part number 1 and getting into further discussion. So guys, thank you for listening. Stay blessed out there in those streets. Make sure you treat others kindly out there in those streets. And God willing, I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to Reflection by Abia. Let me know in the comments section what you thought about today's episode and share the podcast with your friends and family. The link will be available in the show notes.